happening? I'm Tommy, and you are on the boat. So here's the deal. Hey, Grandma Amy, good to see you. Tommy Bird, what's happening? Sling Blade. Hopefully Sling Blade, you saw my answer. I wish I had a little bit more time. Excuse me. I wish I had a little bit more time to answer that. I really do. I wish I had a little bit more time to answer that. But here's the deal. I've been wanting to talk about. There's a lot of stuff that's getting reported about Nick Reiner in the lockup at the Twin Towers, right? That would be the Twin Towers Correctional Facility in LA. It's a kind of a notoriously crappy place to do time. Honestly, not very clean. But all of the stuff that they say about it, Sling Blade, it's great to see you. Chicken Cherry Cola, glad you're here. Hey, Janet. Aspire to Inspire, Brock Bandy. Miss Thy Tornado. You made a live from Florida. I'm glad that you're here. I really am. DS Kitty Diane. All right, so here's the deal. There's a lot of misinformation that's coming out about the Twin Towers and about the kind of stuff that is going on in this guy's life. And some of it's just really minor stuff. Some of it's huge. Like they talk about how people are pushing up on him and threatening him. This isn't going to work tonight. How he's being threatened and all kinds of stuff that's going on. That happens in general population. It's kind of important to realize that that's not where this cat is, right? Not in any way, shape, or form. He is in a lockdown wing of this unit, right? Plain and simple. By the way, I did a show earlier on the wife of what's his name? You know who I'm talking about. Timothy Busfield, the husband rather of the girl from Little House on the Prairie. He is still in jail. They did not give him any kind of bail. That's a great question. We'll leave that up there for a second. Olaha, good to see you. That wasn't the question I was looking for, but you guys are. Your chat rate's already killing it. That makes me gives me a warm and fuzzy in my heart. And I want to thank all of the people that hit subscribe in the last week or so. We have been growing at a rate. See, I'm a YouTuber. I've actually started to ask people to hit the subscribe button, and damn it, people are doing it. It's a beautiful thing. Hit that thumbs up. That also helps. We are getting the word out that we're back in true crime, and we're not going to put stuff out there that is absolute BS. He's not in general population. At what point will he have access to jail drugs? When he is off of this wing. So when you're in isolation, they don't let you near other inmates, period. This is as close to solitary confinement as the guy's going to do. In solitary, there won't be somebody checking on you every 15 minutes. Cat hair. There won't be somebody checking on you every 15 minutes. You will be in a cell that has a metal door. He is all by himself, Mike Bragg. There is nobody in the cell with him. He is in a cell that has a camera on the ceiling. That camera goes down to so normally in every prison or every jail, there is a very large room where security sits, and there's 40 freaking cameras, 50, not cameras, but screens, 40 or 50 screens up there, and they rotate through different images because there are hundreds of cameras in a place like that. That's not who's monitoring him. In the unit he's actually in, there might be 4 or 5 observation cells. If it's a huge mental health facility, there might be 8 or 9. No, she's talking about street drugs. They can get medication in there, but they can also turn that medication down. This is a question that people ask me all the time. Can they force him to take his meds? They cannot. If an inmate says, I do not want to take my medication, it will not be foisted upon them. Sling Blade says it's called the SHU. That would be the Segregated Housing Unit. Technically, I think this is an administrative housing unit because you don't, this isn't something, the Segregated Housing Unit, you are absolutely segregated from all the other inmates. In administrative segregation, which is slightly different, ADSEG, right, instead of DISSEG, DISSEG is disciplinary segregation. And in disciplinary segregation, you got a great chance of getting drugs because all of the people that are going back there don't want to get sick if they're addicted to opiates. So let's say a gang member ends up in the SHU, the Segregated Housing Unit. They will send a gang member, another one. They will let him get in trouble intentionally. Nothing major, nothing that's going to get him, huge write-ups. But he'll get an out of bounds or something really silly. Like if you get caught in another unit, that's called out of bounds. You're going straight to the SHU for an investigation. They will pack the prison wallet, right? They will hoop it, take it to the backside, fill their body cavity with drugs, and they will get in trouble to go back there and deliver the drugs to the other gang members. So usually in the Segregated Housing Unit, there's access to drugs, especially, more so if you're a gang member, but if not, there's somebody back there selling them. But where Nick Reiner is right now, he is in no-lie segregation, right? This isn't disciplinary segregation, so there aren't other people around him who got in trouble, right? When I was in college, I got in trouble for drinking freshman year. They sent me to a disciplinary dorm. Every person in that dorm had gotten in trouble for drugs or alcohol. Can you see a problem with this concept? Right? Take everybody on the entire campus who's acting like a jackass and put them in the same dorm and watch what happens. Well, segregation, the segregated housing unit, is for people that can't follow the rules. That's not where Nick is. Nick is in the administrative segregation part of the facility. So he is going to be sitting behind a door that has a little metal section in the middle and two huge pieces of glass so that people who walk by can look directly in on you. On top of that, there's going to be a camera. And in that actual unit will be a cop who stares at those screens all day long when he's not checking Facebook, right? Or shopping on Amazon, because they do that stuff. I mean, it happens. But there's somebody monitoring him almost around the clock. Do you think they are trying to detox him? He would have been detoxed long ago by now. We don't know whether or not he was on opioids. If he was on opioids, detox is a very long process. If he was on a lot of benzodiazepines, you can detox somebody off of that in about a 7 to 9 day protocol of just stepping them down. You can't do that with heroin. A heroin addict gets thrown in there and they give them Mylanta. They give them something for headaches. They give them diphenhydramine, the stuff that is in Benadryl, or the stuff that's in Sominex. It's a sleep aid, and it is a joke of a sleep aid. It's not going to do anything to somebody that is withdrawing from heroin. The detox protocol for opioids is honestly more in line with just the placebo effect of showing up 3 times a day and handing a guy 4 pills. It doesn't do a whole lot for any of the problems that are going on. But what's going to happen to him now is around the clock, he is going to be in a unit that doesn't have bunk beds. It's not going to look like a normal prison unit. Most times you see somebody in a jail or in prison, there's a bunk bed. It's made of metal. There's a ladder that helps the people get to the second bunk. And in that cell also, because they all have what's called a pipe chase. For plumbing purposes, the room is always shaped, I don't remember the geometry very well, but the state of Nevada, kind of shaped like the state of Nevada. So instead of being a square, it'll be a square at one end, and at the other end, it'll have an angle that cuts like this. And that's where the door will be. And as that cuts, that's where your sink is, your toilet is, because all of the piping and the plumbing is directly behind that. Makes the cell a little bit smaller. That's not where he's at. In the cell he's going to be in, there is going to be one bed, because they're never putting another guy in there. And that bed is going to be about that high off the ground, because they don't want anybody jumping off of it. They don't want him to be able to hurt himself. The reason he's in an observation cell is twofold. Sometimes they put people in observation cells because the person's going to hurt somebody else, right? They don't want to put him with any other inmate because they are acting violently psychotic, right? The other thing is they may hurt themselves. The third feature of this is sometimes an inmate is, especially in California, in what is called Category J. Hello, Reese. Good to see you. That's my girl there. I'm glad you're here, Reese. Can I get some ones, please? Yes, absolutely. Yeah, please. And I will keep you in my prayers, Jamie Palmer. And you know what? All of you can keep me in your prayers. I'm having one of those days that makes you question humanity. The deal is this: once you're in there, the other reason that they would keep somebody in there is they don't want to put someone who is in Category J, someone that can't take care of themselves. They're not showering. They're not doing things that normal men would do. They're not brushing their teeth. They're not showering. They're not doing the things necessary to take care of themselves. Put one of those people into a normal general population setting, and they are going to get victimized, and they're going to get victimized quickly. Not just because inmates want to hurt people or they're jerks, but because they don't want their routine messed with. And if you've got a guy in there that can't sort of get with the program, like when they yell, lock it down, everybody runs to their cell. Now, you got some stragglers, but within about 60 seconds, your butt better be in a cell. And if somebody doesn't do that 2 or 3 times in a row, they do corporal punishment. And what corporal punishment does is every person in there gets punished. So let's say this doesn't make any sense, right? But think about it, because this is how it goes. If somebody gets on the stuff they call K2, this is a synthetic cannabinoid. It's nothing like pot. They call it a synthetic cannabinoid. It's far closer to like PCP. And people have episodes on them. Sometimes they scream. Sometimes they freeze in one spot. They won't lock down. They'll just stand like this, look like a statue. They call it freezing up. Fall downstairs, all this kind of crazy stuff. It happens so often in prisons, they just now call it an episode. They'll say there was an episode in Unit 4. That person's going to go to the hole. They're not going to come back from the hole. They're going to go through an entire process of getting shipped to another prison. But everybody in the unit is going to get punished because that dude acted like an idiot. He's gone. 2 guys get in a fight, they're gone. They're getting shipped to another yard, but the whole unit gets locked down and gets punished for what those 2 guys did. And this isn't an accident, right? They're doing this because we will begin to police the unit ourselves. If you get locked down through a Saturday, you're not going to get to visiting. And visiting is a big deal for people that are locked up because it gives you an opportunity to put your hands on or your lips on, right? Somebody that you love. It's a connection to the street. It's also how dope gets into almost every prison or jail on earth. So if that gets cut off, if you can't do that, then the fellows are going to find out who's selling the stuff that's causing that kind of problem. They're going to beat the bark off of them. And the prison wants that to happen. As crazy as it is, that truthfully is what they're looking for. And that's probably ugly, right? But it's the truth. Now, Nick's not dealing with any of this. However, for a spoiled kid from Hollywood, and before anybody gives me any crap from that, I'm quoting him. He's a spoiled, rich kid from Hollywood who can't get in any trouble. He's in an observation cell. He's not going to pee. He's not going to go to the bathroom. He's not going to rub one out. He's not going to do anything in there that people aren't watching him around the clock. Then in spite of that, there are policies that govern people that are locked up. And there are 2 different designations. One of them is going to be the people that are on suicide watch. When you are on suicide watch, you are monitored. Listen carefully for the Epstein people that think he was on suicide watch. If you are on suicide watch, you are monitored 24 hours a day. And I don't mean there's a camera up there and a guy goes by every 15 minutes. I mean there's a dude staring at you through the glass 24 hours a day. Because they assume if someone really is suicidal, then when they step away, that guy's going to bang his head on the wall. He's going to do anything he can to take himself out. So you're never left alone, right? You don't have all of the accoutrements you would normally have in a cell because you can hurt yourself with those. On suicide watch, which is where he started this for the first 2 weeks, you wear a very thick, what they call suicide smock. The fellas call it the oven mitt, the Barney Rubble suit. Not trying to offend anybody. They also call it the retard skirt because you got to be dumb enough to say, I want to hurt myself. Most inmates will never say that because they know what happens if you go, man, I wish I was dead. Boom. They go, really? Turn around and put your hands behind your back. There's nothing they like more than putting you in a dress for 72 hours, right? Standing in there in the freezing cold. Usually it's really cold in those cells. But that's where he was. He was in the turtle suit for a couple of weeks. Then they moved him to the high observation, right? It's HOH. It's not the same thing, but it's very damn close. And he is now going to be in a cell that looks remarkably the same. The difference is going to be he'll be wearing a jumpsuit and he will have an actual mattress. That mattress is about 2.5 inches thick. Right? It's not made for comfort. It's certainly not a Sealy Posturepedic, right? Or any kind of comfortable mattress. It's literally that thick. And it has a pillow built into it. So you don't have a pillow. You don't have a pillowcase. They're not going to give you a whole lot of anything, right? Here's the mindset. And this is actually in the paperwork. I read it today. The mindset of the jail or prison facility is strip everything out of that cell. Get rid of everything. And then start putting back in what has to be there, right? Everything else goes. So what has to be in there? You got to have a mattress. You got to have at least 1 sheet and 1 blanket. And that's about it, right? There isn't going to be anything else. You're going to have a cup, right? It's a plastic cup about this big. You can take it and go and crush it. And then it opens back up. It's a rubber cup. It's not a plastic cup because they're afraid you'll break that and try to cut your wrist with it. So it's a drinking cup that you can literally just crush and then it pops back up. It's one of the funniest things ever. They're going to give you a toothbrush, but they're not going to give you toothpaste because they're afraid you will swallow the entire tube at once and try to poison yourself with the fluoride or whatever else is in there. They will put the toothbrush goes on your pinky. I'm not playing. It's a little device about this big that you slide on your pinky. Ain't going on my pinky. I had to hold the thing like this, but a normal person could put one on their pinky. And when you do, the bristles kind of come out a little bit. They're hard plastic. It's god awful, but that's what you have to use. You're not allowed to have the dining utensils that most people use, which is called a spork. Right? It's a combination of spoon and fork. So it looks like a spoon, but it's got 4 prongs on the end of it so that you can actually stick stuff. I don't know how you can hurt yourself with a spork anyway, but they will not allow anybody in an observation cell or on suicide watch to have one. Instead, they give you this little thing that's about this big, and it says press A to B. And when you do, you press it together, it creates a small little spoon made of paper. Absolutely disturbing. But everything in there is designed to make sure you can't hurt yourself. So the reason that I decided to do this show is because somebody was talking about what it's like in there. And they said, yeah, I heard they're waking him up at 8 a.m. to give him breakfast. And, he's not happy about that. Ain't no way in hell they're waking you up at 8 a.m. But we'll get to that. This is the observation cells and the suicide prevention stuff is where he is going to be living until the time comes that they remove him from that facility. It is a very long odds that he's ever going to hit general population because he is deemed a danger to himself and to others. So they're going to isolate him from the cell. They're going to walk by and look at him every 15 minutes. Now, this is pretty standard operating procedure. There's always a count, right? Normally the counts are closer to like it's a visual count. It's not a literal count. They're going by to observe and make sure that you're not lying on the ground or that your cellmate, if they're doing it in a normal GP unit, to make sure you're not doing anything wrong or anybody's getting hurt or you're sleeping with one another or any of that kind of garbage. The kind of counts they do in a observation cell, they won't do it 15 minutes after, 30 minutes after. They will every single day, they'll move that a little bit. So they'll start the first one at 10 minutes after, then 15 minutes later, they'll show up. They don't want the inmate to figure out the timetable. So they can go, well, I got 30 minutes before he gets here. They're doing everything they can to kind of make it so that you can't get a bead on the schedule in there. It's just kind of how it works. And instead of walking by and just looking in there, they're going to come to the glass. They're going to knock on it. And they're going to go, Nick, how you doing, man? You doing all right? Hey, you need anything? You doing all right? Now, Nick could go, yeah, I could use some fresh underwear. And they'll go, yeah, I'll get that for you. They're not going to get it for you. They just want the person to engage so they can go back and say, I asked the inmate if he needed anything. He said this. They're trying to get the person in there to engage because connection actually makes a difference in people's lives. And this cat is in a cell that he's not getting connection with anything. Now, you can go to the store at any of the jail facilities and you can buy things like Top Ramen, Flaming Cheetos. And some of them you can buy a radio. You can buy all of these different small little amenities like hygiene stuff. You can buy toothpaste. You can buy your own toothbrush. Yeah, that absolutely would work, Quibs. You could just ask for the manager. I don't know that that's going to fly. I was addicted to cigarettes and alcohol at one point. I have an addictive personality, so I never tried any drugs because I was afraid I would like it and I wouldn't be able to stop. Good decision. Yes, but not to be pedantic. But if you were addicted to nicotine and to alcohol, you absolutely. That's a great question, Johnny Scoville. That's a great question. Would a spoiled man-child like him get privileges other people don't? Great question. If he was in general population, maybe a little bit. They might let him out to make phone calls when other people couldn't. They'll do that kind of stuff. In an observation cell, the standards that are set for this, Johnny, are etched in stone. For instance, you can buy your own toothpaste. You can buy your own toothbrush. You can buy a razor that has 3 blades instead of the one they let you shave with once a week. There are things that you can buy that will make you feel a little bit more like home. None of those things are available to somebody in an observation cell. You get nothing. They won't let you have a book unless it's a Bible. They just don't do it, which is really stupid if you think about it. But it hasn't worked for Koberger. That's a great line, Laura Lou. You can ask for the warden. It sure as hell hasn't worked for Koberger or any other inmate that ever did it. So he's going to be locked in this thing 24/7. However, by law, they have to give him an opportunity to leave that little cell for 1 hour a day because it was determined by some psychiatrists, psychologists, and Congress ratified it that it is cruel and unusual punishment to leave a man in a cell and never let him see the sun, right? So you are afforded an opportunity at least 5 days a week to get out for 1 hour a day. Now, how that happens is, like, you ever seen the movies where the food slot comes down and they hand the food in there? Because Nick isn't going to a chow hall. He doesn't leave the cell. So they feed him 3 meals a day through that little chuck hole bean slot. They've got names for it. But it is the little slot that you slide food through. You also put your hands through it from behind. And then they put handcuffs on it. Then they will open the cell door. So you're never walking out of that cell that you don't have handcuffs on. That's just how it goes. So if Nick wants to go out to the yard, which isn't a yard, They're going to take you to a cell that more often than not is about that much smaller than the cell you were actually in. But it looks like what a tennis court fence is made of. The stuff's way thicker, but it looks like a chain link fence, but it's very, it's thicker chain link. You're not going to be able to bend it or do anything with it. But that is what these little cages are made of, right? Sometimes they call them dog cages. Sometimes they call them dog runs, but they're small as hell. And there's going to be concrete walls on both sides that go all the way up. So really all you're getting is sun. He would never have an opportunity to be in one of those cages with anybody else. So he would, however, have an opportunity to scream 6 or 7 cages away. Allegedly, right? He has not asked for that privilege. He's not done it once. They make it almost impossible to actually go to rec because the cops don't like doing their jobs. So the routine in here goes something like this, right? And this is pretty standard for people in the segregated housing unit. Wake up for meals, 4 a.m. Did you guys catch that? 4 a.m. And I said this on one of the other shows that I did, and someone said, come on, man, 4 a.m. So I went and had to figure out where I could find this. So I went and found policies and procedures for Twin Towers. And if you are in segregation, now this could be administrative segregation, which is where he is. The administration has decided to keep him from other people. Or disciplinary segregation, you screwed up. You stabbed somebody, you punched somebody, you got caught making wine, you had dope on you, you failed a piss test. Any of these things will land you in disciplinary segregation. So if you're in ad seg or you're in dis seg, you're getting up at 4 a.m. Sometimes it might hit 4:30, but you're getting that meal before 4:45. And normally they're shooting for 4 a.m. Now, I worked in kitchens. I've done almost everything you could do in a joint at one time or another. They feed the people in these cells before they feed anybody else because they want a routine and a schedule, right, that is going to work. Not going to work for my schedule. I need a tight 12 hours of sleep. Well, here you go, babe, because you can actually pull off the 12 hours of sleep. They're going to wake you up at 4 a.m. Breakfast is a sack meal, right? It's going to come in a brown paper bag. I promise you this is not what Nick is used to. That's around the time you go to sleep, Jamie? Yeah, I used to do that. I can't do it anymore. They bring a sack lunch. It's not what you would call fine cuisine. You're going to get cold cereal, which usually comes in a small box, right? Like a little disposable box in county jails. In the feds, when they say a cold meal, it's going to come in a tray. But in the county jail, it's actually in a bag. So that bag, they're going to bring cold cereal, 2 eggs, or peanut butter. You get a choice if you're not an egg person. And there's jelly in there as well. So what you're really getting is a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, a thing of cold milk, and bread of some kind. They're also counting the calories, right? For margarine packs, they have to get to that 2,500 calories a day. So they're going to serve you bread at every meal. They're going to serve you bread on top of the bread that you have for the sandwich. They really push to try to get to 2,500 calories. They're worthless calories, right? The protein you're getting is going to be from the eggs or from the peanut butter, as well as the protein you're going to get in milks. If you don't drink milk, if you're not an egg guy, you're not getting any protein in your diet, and it really starts to mess you up, right? Yeah, I get up at about 4 a.m., and some of that is just from being in prison for a long time, right? You get up very early in prison. There are rules. If you're a white guy in prison, you have to be up. They call it suited and booted. You have to be up in your uniform, right? The prison uniform with your boots laced, just in case when the doors pop, there's a riot, which never happens, but you still got to do it every day. And if you don't, they discipline you, which means they come in and beat the piss out of you without punching you above the shoulders. So it might take a week, but you'll get into the rhythm of it pretty quick. Lunch is going to come at, so remember, 4 a.m., they feed you breakfast. It's designed so that you go right back to sleep. Then they don't have to babysit you as much. So they give you food at 4 a.m., you fall asleep. And normally, you'll probably sleep right until about 10 a.m. when they come in and give you lunch. So 10 a.m., they're going to roll in, and they're going to give you another paper bag. That paper bag is going to have bologna or a similar kind of sandwich. I promise you, they put that so that people on the street think, oh, yeah, they're varying it up. You're going to get bologna. It's going to have a slightly green tinge to it that looks a little bit like an oil slick. And if you complain about it, they're going to go, well, no, that's just kind of how it works. Yeah, this is it, man. Yes, women also get the same number of calories, Kathy. Rubber eggs, leather toast, and pond water for coffee. And the coffee isn't coffee. I don't know what the hell it is, but I promise you it is not It is not coffee. You're going to get fruit, which means you're going to get an orange. And it is not the orange you're going to see in a grocery store. It's usually about that big, very hard to peel. Sometimes you'll get an apple, but there's always going to be a piece of fruit, a bag of chips, or a cookie, and it says juice. You're not going to get juice. You're going to get a small packet about this big, right? That is one of those chemical things. There's no sugar in it, right? They put this chemical crap in there. Nobody, and I mean nobody, drinks that stuff. It will kill you, right? Some people will use it. I'm not lying. There are people that will use it for, doing eye shade, right? Or doing their lips. These would be the people in there that would like to be a different gender. They very often will use that stuff for makeup. Skittles get used that way too. But nobody actually drinks that stuff. It's poison. And dinner, big pimpin', at 4:00 at night, they're going to bring dinner. And the dinner that they're going to bring is absolutely hot, right? This comes in a warmer container. So there's these big carts that you push up there. And if you're delivering it for a 4:00 meal, you have to have it there at 3:30. And they plug it in, and the inside of that bad boy gets really, really hot. And the plastic trays that stack one on top of the other will keep all of the food in there warm, in theory. In theory. And God forbid you complain about stuff. When I was in Lewisburg at this special management unit, idiots started to complain about the fact that when we would get our hamburgers, which was every Wednesday in the Fed, still is, always will be. Wednesday for lunch, you get a hamburger. The fries would be cold. And like 20 guys complained about it. So they just gave us a potato. They said, no more French fries. You guys like to piss and moan about it. Just have a potato. Commissary is essential. It really is, right? If you're going to survive, especially for a long period of time, commissary is huge. And you buy top ramen, you buy whatever you can to make food for you that is going to be a bunch of calories, right? However, Nick ain't getting any of that. You're not allowed to buy any of those. Let me rephrase that. What he can buy from the commissary list, Nick, he can buy stationery, he can buy envelopes, and he can buy stamps. Nothing else is allowed in that cell because they figure you can't hurt yourself with any of that. You also, the potato is kind of, Reese does tend to complain. This is it's like a baked potato, right? Hard as a stone, but they don't give you anything to put on it. So you literally, and you'll end up doing it. The first 3 weeks you go, screw these guys. By the 4th week, because you're going to starve, you pick the stuff up and just start gnawing through it. Did I get into shape there? I got abs there. I promise you. That's a great question. That is a great question. Do I drink coffee? I do. I ask because people that go to prison, when they come out, they still drink it black. Why is that? Because there's no sugar in there, right? There's no sugar in there. So if you're going to drink coffee, your options are you can put a little milk in it, or you can use one of those non-sugar sweeteners like Sweet and Low. It won't be Sweet and Low. It'll be something else. And normally, by the time you've done a year, 2 years, 3 years you will give up on that stuff in the first 3 weeks. It is so just disgustingly sweet. It ruins coffee. So the fellas tend to drink it like John Wayne, and then you just get a taste for it. And when you get out, you probably just sort of stay with it. No, there are no condoms in commissary. They do not cater to any of that. However, do they give you a pencil? See, this is a great question. So how are you going to write? They give you a pen. The pen's about this long. It's clear, and you can tie it in a knot. I kid you not. It's so hard to write with. Most guys will take an envelope, and they will rip the envelope off, and they will spin the paper so that the pen gets thicker, so that you put some stiffness to it with paper, because you can't just grab it and try to write with it. It bends in your hand. Very, very difficult to use. But they're not going to give you they will not let you buy a pen or a pencil because you could hurt yourself with that, right? They also have flexible pencils. There's lead inside a piece of plastic, and I swear to you, you can bend it like this all the way around. Don't understand how they work. Fortunately, I didn't spend a lot of time in that kind of cell. Do me a favor too, people, if you don't mind, because there's 350 of you in here, smack that like button and do me a favor and hit subscribe. We're going to be talking about all of this stuff for a long time. You don't want to miss it. And then hit that bell for notification, because I do go live more often than most, sometimes 2 and 3 times a day. Dinner varies. It could be turkey with yams for holiday or beans with veggie. This includes salad, roll, and milk. It always has a piece of bread. Always. They give you a ton of milk because there's a bunch of protein in milk, and they have to get you to a certain level of protein. There is a diet that you have to maintain. The trouble is you literally have to eat everything they put on the tray to maintain that diet, and not everyone is going to. Yes, but you can't buy anything there, Neutralizer, except you could buy paper, you can buy envelopes, and you can buy stamps. Nothing else on that list can you bring into your cell. They just don't allow it. And the reason that they do is because they strip this down to where there's literally nothing left. Do you think the American prison population would respond better or worse to the Netherlands, Finnish, Norwegian style of imprisonment with dignity? Oh, absolutely. Or the German. There's so many places that do this better. Here, you know what? I'll do this in 60 to 90 seconds. I'll tell you how they could fix the prison system. If you walk into a prison and you go in there, they say to you, if you do programming, they're like, here's what you can do. You can get an education. You can do this. You can do that. You can get a job. Now I go in there and I start doing that. I got a job. I'm also taking college courses. I'm busting my ass. I'm doing everything I can to make myself a better person. My cellmate plays poker all day long, right? Plays poker all day long, makes alcohol, drinks it, parties. He's doing dope. He and I are getting the exact same amount of good time. There's something wrong with that. They should take people that couldn't make it in society and say, here's what we're going to do. These cells are small. They stink like piss. This is just absolutely nasty. However, you don't get a write-up. You keep your job. You get your GED or you start in college. And at the end of 1 year, we're going to move you out of this unit. And we're going to take you to a unit where everybody else in there is doing what you're doing. People that are actually trying to make themselves better. You do a year more of that. And then the next thing that we do is we make sure that you're going to be moved from a 2-man cell to a 1-man cell. And we'll give you a key to it. You can open the door. You can close the door, right? On year 4, we're going to give you a tablet. You just start teaching people that if you do good, you don't have to fear anything. But if you screw up, then you're going to be treated like you were, in the first place. You're going to end up in trouble, right? We're going to make it hard on you if you're doing stupid shit. And we're going to make it easy on you, right? We're going to show you that if you do the right things, good stuff will happen. That would be a really great idea. When they mix everything together, they call it a loaf, but I can't remember the other word. Honestly, Renee B., you're lucky that we're such good friends, because just bringing up Nutriloaf would usually get me to throw somebody out of here. Nutriloaf, if you really screw up, like if you really piss off a jail, they will put you on this protocol for guys that are jerks, and they call it getting put on paper. They take away your clothing, and they give you a shirt and a pair of pants that are made of paper. Swear to God. So now you're on paper. There's nothing in your cell. You can't have a radio. You can't have anything. This is in the segregated housing unit. And you are going to get every meal you're going to have during the day. They're going to bake into what looks like a brownie. So if there was corn, you're going to have corn in it. If there were green beans, you're going to see green beans in there. It's always wildly oily. I don't know what they add to it, for protein and everything else, but it is greasy. It is disgusting. And they call it Nutriloaf. I did 38 days on Nutriloaf once. And the crazy thing is you figure stuff out because there's no other option, right? So I figured out if you put it on top of a light, right, and it gets really, really hot, you could almost get it down. Sling Blade, you never had the loaf? Boy, you did something right. I think Lori Vallow Daybell used some weird stuff to put on her makeup for the trial. She looked like a clown. True story. She was probably using Skittles or something like that. I have heard in some women's prisons that you can buy makeup. And the last prison I was at in the feds, you could buy a bra and panties. Not making this up. You could also buy some cosmetic stuff that was definitely made just for women. Thank you, Rue, for the support. You are always so supportive. I really do appreciate that. So that's the whole schedule in terms of timing, which means this fool starts breakfast at 4 a.m. He eats dinner at 4 p.m., right? That's your day. After that 4 p.m., they're going to leave the lights on, allegedly, according to what they say. They're going to turn the lights off somewhere around 9 to 10 o'clock at night. You can't turn them off. They're going to turn them off. The light switch is on the outside of the cell, not the inside. So there's something really, especially if you're new to it, there's something awful about that light going off. Nick's not going to worry about that because when they turn the light off, right, there is a light that is not as bright. It's not quite as bright, but it is still a light, and it's on 24 hours a day. Because without that, the cameras can't see Nick. So he is living in a world where the light never goes off. And if you don't think that messes with the whole circadian rhythm and all that jazz, it is a freaking nightmare. Now, if you're in the SHU, the segregated housing unit, you try to grab a second pair of socks when they're coming through to do laundry, because you throw all your stuff out the food slot and they give you all brand new stuff. And, you know, if you're slick, you go, hey, there was only one sock here. And the guy hands you 2 more socks. So you can take that and tie it around your head, because you have to do something to block out the light. It is a very, very difficult thing to deal with. Tommy, so is jail the same as prison? No, it is not. I have a friend that has a laptop and can watch Netflix and listen to music. Where the hell is he? That's good work if you can get it. No, prison is a permanent. Prison is where you go when you get a long sentence. Like I got sentenced to almost a decade, right? So, well, the last time, almost a decade. So I go to a place that's going to be my home. That's it. It's not, jail is where you go after you get arrested, right? Once you get arrested, they have to put you someplace until you're convicted. You know, for instance, Mr. Busfield, Timothy, is now in the men's detention center in Bernalillo County in New Mexico. He is going to be stuck in there until they can either decide that he's going to allow them to get bail, which I don't think is going to happen. Jail normally, this is correct. Normally in most places, jail is going to be a 365-day sentence. So let's say you get caught for shoplifting and they say the sentence is a year. That's a 365-day sentence, right? You're only going to do 50% of it. So normally you do 6 months on a year in a county jail. But if you're awaiting trial, you could be there 5 years, because they're not going to let you out of there until the trial is over. And there are people like Suitcase Sarah. Remember the woman that zipped up her boyfriend in a suitcase? She spent 5 or 6 years in one of those. And in California, it's a little different, caretaker, because of the overcrowding. Mine was a t-shirt over my eyes at night. Yeah, you know, we'd use socks, and instead of tying it behind your head, because that's really uncomfortable, you just take a comb and you put the comb in there, and it jams everything in place. 1 day less than a year, 2 days less than 2, life in county. Yeah, hey, Brandon, good to see you. 1 day in jail is like 6. John, you're not lying. A local cop told me there are people in jail waiting years on a trial. The worst I ever heard was 8. But it was his fault. He was really trying to stall as long as he could. Why, thank you. That's a kind thing to say. I'm pretty damn happy that I changed as well. I really am. So this hell that he's in right now, I'm not feeling bad, man. I really am not. I mean, he put himself there. That said, I feel bad for anybody to some degree that is stuck in an observation cell, because there's nothing quite. Do those years count? That's a great question. Absolutely. So if you do 5 years in a jail waiting for trial and they give you a 6-year sentence, you only owe them a year. Now, here's where it becomes a problem, though. In some places, you don't get good time credits the same way in a jail that you do in a prison, right? And that sucks, because everybody else in that jail is doing 50% of their time. So it's not like if you do 2 years, they're going to go, well, it's 4 years worth of. Sometimes they don't even give you the 85%. People in the feds get screwed over really bad that way. But most people who go to the feds try to get to prison as fast as they can. County jail sucks. Yeah, you're right. People don't realize how slow time will go. 10 years locked up is like 30 years on the outside. It's the truth. It is absolutely the truth. And state don't count on feds. Yeah, Slingblade, that happens very often. That if you're in a state facility, you're not getting good time credits going toward your federal case. Now, the First Step Act was supposed to cure that. The First Step Act was supposed to cure a lot of things. It takes a long time to implement those things. So here's the deal with this. I think that jail is much worse than prison. And I'll tell you why. A lot of the people that are coming through jail have never done time, right? And that may sound like, well, I'd rather be around people that haven't done time. But there are certain things that you do that are, hold on. Hey, Jamie Palmer, I will find out the name on the Falcon Hood, and the next time we're here, I will tell you the name and where we get it. Yeah, Slingblade says it's boring. That's why. They don't set this up for people to live there. And you have people there that have never done time, so they don't understand kind of the rules of how this is supposed to work. So you've got people that do dumb things. And those people that do dumb things cause fights, cause all kinds of drama that we would all just rather avoid. So when you get to a prison, everybody lives there. This is their home, like it or not. It's a 12 foot by 4 foot cell or 5 foot cell. Which has better food? Both of them suck, but normally the food will be a little bit better in prison, right? The inmates are cooking in jail or in prison, but a guy doing 25 years in a prison might have been a cook for 10 years. So he begins to pick up some skills. Guys in county jail, they assign you to the kitchen. These guys don't know, 2 days earlier they were vomiting on 4th Street. Now they're a chef. It's kind of a bummer. Why does it seem like some inmates don't age as badly as those of us on the outside? Because they don't let you smoke cigarettes, they don't let you drink, they don't let you party, they don't let you go out and do all of those things, right? And you become hyper focused because you have all kinds of crap time to kill. People in prison realize that programming, doing the same thing day after day after day, that's going to help you get through that a whole lot better. So a lot of guys work out every day. Some guys take up running, but everybody has some kind of routine that they do that has something to do with their physical shape or health. People on the outside don't work out every day. Some do, but the vast majority do not. They also can go eat whenever they want. You have a refrigerator. In prison, we don't have a refrigerator, right? We eat when they say we can eat. I mean, there's snacky stuff, but you're just not. You don't have the ability to do the same kind of things. That blockhead who allegedly killed his wife and her hubby recently has not ever. Yeah, he has not had a record. There's a lot of people snap. You're at your healthiest in prison and jail. Guys get out every time looking like this. And 3 weeks later, they're sucked up from meth or they're just trashed out from drinking or whatever. But yeah, they don't let you go crazy with the skincare either, Reese. They have a tent prison in Arizona. It must be horrible in our hot summers, right? You know what? I did time in Arizona, but I never did it in a tent city. Thank God. But I did time in Arizona, and it is a tough place to do time. Every single day when they would let people out to go to the rec yard, there's a speaker, right? They say, movement for this. You hear the guy's voice. And he would always go, did you bring water? We're in a mother effing desert. And they would say that every single day on the way out. And there would be 3 or 4 people that would get heat stroke every week. It's I did P90X, finished that entire program because it was one of the electives that you could take. I did P90X. I was not under the sun. We were on a tent, but it was outside on the yard. And it was in the dead of summer. It was like 120 degrees. You can buy snacks, Reese. You can buy snacks. Sling Blade's got a good idea. Reese, stay relatable. Don't go to jail, sis. Good advice. Absolutely good advice. So the medication, they're going to bring the medication to him usually right before dinner, which is lovely. Because if you're in that kind of an environment, so you're being monitored, you're in a cell that has a camera and all that jazz, they're not handing you pills. Because they're afraid you're going to keep them in your cheek. And then you're going to try to trade them or you're going to save 20 of them so you can swallow them all at once and kill yourself. So they have this thing that they call night. Damn it. It's night something. But there's a little sleeve that's about this big. It's very, very thick plastic. They put the pills at the bottom of it and they go crunch, crunch, crunch with this little device. And then they slide it through the food slaughter under the door. You have to go up, show it to them, throw it in your mouth, and then drink. Right? All of those pills taste like 6 kinds of butt, right? Just the worst taste in the world. A lot of them will numb the inside of your mouth, right? They give, there's a drug called Elavil. That's the name brand. It's amitriptyline. And they give it to people to help them fall asleep. A lot of people in that kind of an environment get amitriptyline. It will mess your taste buds up for hours. They give it to you right before dinner. Everything in there is torturous. Absolutely torturous. Nick can absolutely refuse his meds. They cannot force somebody to take medication. They can't force somebody to take medication in prison. They can't force somebody to take medication in jail. The exception to that rule would be if you blow an O-ring. If you're trying to wrestle a cop to the ground or you're punching the hell out of somebody, you're going buck wild, they will come in and give you a shot. And that shot is usually a huge amount of Halidol, and it will just knock you out. Twizzlers, sriracha almonds, avocado chips. No, you're not getting any of that stuff. You're not getting any of that stuff. Bitter butt. That's right, Renee B. What do they do if you refuse to eat? It's a great question. It depends on how long you refuse to eat. The first thing they do is they get everything out of your cell to make sure you're not malingering. You might have 13 soups under the bed and you refuse all the meals, but you're actually eating something. So they're going to take you out of general population. They're going to put you in an observation cell, make sure you have nothing that you can eat. If you refuse 9 meals in a row in the federal system, they're going to make sure that you eat, whether you like it or not. That is a tube that goes up your nose, down your throat, and they pump the stuff into you. I've done it. You won't do it more than once. It will talk you out of doing it again, I promise. The big problem is you're stagnant. The work keeps moving at a normal pace, and you're stuck in time. It's hell. Well, I'll be damned. Somebody just reached out to me to tell me about some stuff about Marilyn Monroe. Nerds are a must. You're not getting that either. Here's the problem with so when we say go to commissary, they're not selling you stuff with sugar in it, right? You give me a bag of nerds this big and I can make a bag of wine out of it, right? To make wine, you just need bacteria, you need fruit, and you need sugar, right? The bacteria eats sugar and it farts out alcohol. The bag gets bigger and you burp it out, but it doesn't take a whole lot to anything that was sugar in it. So they're not going to be giving you anything that you can use sugar because you're going to make alcohol out of it. It's just not going to happen. So do they sell candy? They do. It just doesn't have sugar in it, right? It's all of that like diabetic candy or whatever, which is just not that much fun, right? It just isn't. Conversation hearts? Probably not. Would I send you a care package? They used to do that. You're not allowed to get care packages anymore. There you go. I have a permit. I was a federal criminal. I'm not sure that that's going to fly. I'm not sure that that's going to fly, Quibs. And they don't really allow packages anymore. Do they ever do anything nice for the prisoners? Yeah, they do. They do it on New Year's. They do it on Christmas. They do it on Thanksgiving. They do it on the 4th of July. They will put an effort in to get you a decent meal. And in the federal system, I promise you that that you're absolutely going to get a really, really good meal on Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is fantastic. They really do it. I mean, if you ate like in the feds, the Thanksgiving meal that they make, if you were to eat it on the street, you'd be impressed. They put a lot of effort into it. They blow a lot of their budget on it. But that's actually a fairly decent setup. No hooch? No, there's absolutely hooch. But there's hooch in prison because guys work in the kitchen and there has to be sugar in the kitchen. So their job as an inmate is to steal as much sugar as they can and get it back to the unit so that the guys can make wine. But you're not going to store to buy stuff. And they're also not very intelligent, right? Because they will sell stuff like they have a sweet and sour sauce in the feds. And when you read the back of it, it is like 90%, about 90% of that bottle is sugar. If you read it. So the guys literally will make wine out of anything that they can find, high fructose corn syrup, anything like that. They used to sell soda with sugar in it. And what the fellas would do is they would take a 12-pack or a case, depending on how big a batch they're going to make, and pour it into a trash can. Every cell in general population has a plastic trash can about this big. They'll fill up that trash can with Coca-Cola or Mountain Dew or whatever. And then you throw what's called a stinger in it. And a stinger is just like, picture the cord that goes from your lamp to the outlet where you plug it in. Cut that cord, take the 2 wires and put a piece of metal between it. And as that current goes through, it heats the metal. So, and if you do it right, it's got a coil on it. If it's, you get what you can get. Sometimes stingers are made out of fingernail clippers. But if you run electric current from a wall through a piece of metal, that piece of metal will boil water in a very, very short period of time, right? You just get that boiling and all of a sudden you boil off everything except the syrup. The syrup's not going to go away. And now what you've got is a garbage pail full of high fructose corn syrup. You can use that now to make wine. So when they said Diddy was over at Fort Dix and he was drinking wine that was made out of Fanta, yeah, they stingered the Fanta to get the sugar out of it. Oh, yeah, prisoners, make no mistake. Prisoners are all MacGyvers. Yeah, you're right. Yes, absolutely. Hold on one second. Yeah, you belong in jail when you're not too miserable or unhappy or impatient to make some freaking street wine in your toilet and drink it. Jamie Palmer, I'm just using that as an example. There are no lamps in prison. right? Where you buy that from is the guys that work at what's called CMS. CMS are the people that go in and fix stuff. So in CMS, they've got like spools full of wire, and those guys will roll up a bunch of that wire and hoop it. We also don't have outlets. So you got to break the little switch on the inside of the wall out, hook the two lines up. That's 220 volt. And then you take the other end and you put a piece of metal between it, whatever you can get your hands on for the piece of metal, because metal is not easy to come by in prison either, because you can sharpen it and make weapons out of it. Question: news stories talk about getting drugs in jail through mail, hidden in books, etc. Is this true? Absolutely. Most of the time now, what they've done to get around this, you used to be able to mail books to people that you cared about. If you got a hardback book, you ever get one where you open it and you can see that the spines come out, like it's not stuck there? They slide dope down that, and then they hot glue it back together, and they would mail that in. So they changed the rules, and they said the only way you can get a book sent into prison is if you do it through Borders Books, or you do it through a book, a bookseller on the street. So what guys would do is they would go to Borders Books on the street. They'd go in there and get a book, right? And they reverse steal it. They buy the book. They take the book home. They fill it with dope of any kind, right? Then they bring it back in their pants, and they walk up to the shelf, pull it back out, and walk up and go, I want to buy this. Can I get a pen? And then you write on the inside, hey, to Tommy, keep your head up. Don't drop the soap. Ha, 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 that kind of stuff, right? Now they can't send that from a warehouse. They're going to have to send that book because you signed it, and the book's got dope in it. But every time an inmate figures something out, they figure out a way to make sure that doesn't happen. That'll make a pot of water boil in less than 5 minutes, right, Tommy? It is absolutely that fast. It would blow your mind how fast. If it's a mug of coffee, it takes about 20 seconds, right? Literally about 20 seconds. Can Diddy or Nick Reiner have visitors yet? Diddy has visitors. Nick Reiner will not have visitors while he is in an observation cell unless they work for the attorney's office. He will get visits. And those visits will be in another room with a crap load of windows, right? It's called a multi-purpose room. And every one of the administrative segregation places has one. Kiefer Sutherland got arrested for assaulting a rideshare driver. You're kidding. It's a bummer. That is a bummer. Yeah, Sling Blade. If you're just doing a 16-ounce coffee mug, I had a stinger when I was in, and by full disclosure, I was in Phoenix FCI, the Federal Correction Institution in Phoenix, federal place. And we had outlets. You could actually plug a fan in and things like that. So I could plug in my stinger. And my stinger was made super professional. It had coiled metal on the end that really resembled almost like a whisk that you would use in a kitchen. And if I put it into a thing of coffee, it took less than 30 seconds to boil that, to boil it. And you know what? This is kind of funny. This is kind of funny. I used this stinger for probably 4 years. And I was under the impression that if I got my finger in the water, I would get electrocuted, right? Like, this makes sense. There's a metal, hooked up to the two sides. And after doing this for so long and being careful and, I got a cellmate and he threw the stinger in, and it was in there about 2 seconds. He stuck his finger inside it. I went, what are you doing? He goes, I'm checking to see if it's hot. I go, that doesn't shock you? He goes, no, why would it? Yeah, it was kind of funny. Will the Reiner trial be on TV? I don't know the answer to that. California does have the ability. All states have the ability to put stuff on camera. Whether or not this one will be televised, I don't have any idea. I don't know. The OJ trial obviously was, and it was an abortion. It caused so many problems. It was just out of control. You're not allowed to apologize for grammar or bad math on the lifeboat. Haven't they got rid of microwaves so that they can't heat oil up? In most real prisons, and by real, I mean high custody level prisons, you're not going to have a microwave. They will have instead on the wall hot water on tap. It's always hot. And they usually call it 180. It's 180, so 180 degrees. It'll burn the crap out of you. But it's a real issue if you're, people would take baby oil, put it in a microwave in a mug and throw it on people. I've actually seen that happen. It is horrific. And most kitchens don't deep fry anything because guys do bad stuff with the, 190. There you go. That's what it's supposed to be. In the feds, it's 180. How long does a stinger last? Until they find it. Until they find it. Joanne Adams, glad you caught alive. Until they find it, you're allowed, that stinger, they're hard to wear out. Unfortunately, they most assuredly get found. You're not allowed to have a stinger. It's contraband. Just about everything is contraband. The other thing that he can buy at store are phone cards. But by all accounts, this dude doesn't need a phone card. When you make a call from a county jail, you're spending about $1 a minute. I mean, it's vicious. It's such a hustle. It really is. Take Diddy, give us back Tupac. So when you're in administrative segregation, sometimes there are different levels of ad seg. If he starts getting his shit together, if he starts taking his medication and he stops acting like if he stops acting like he's not competent to stand trial, they will give him, hey, Grandma Chris, they will give him a little bit more leeway. And that leeway would allow him to visit with people from the street 1 day a week. And I think they give him 2 hours. You are going to be on the other side of glass. You're not going to be able to touch them. It's going to be like the scene from Midnight Express, right? Where you can put your hand up to the glass. That's about as close as you're going to get to contact. You're going to be talking on a telephone. It's still great to see people from the outside. It warms your heart. I agree with you, Audra in Denver. We should see where our tax dollars go. Are there ODs in prison? You wouldn't believe how many. Do people get drunk? What do guards do? Can't make them walk a straight line. No, they breathalyze you. Plain and simple. There's none of that. They just come in with a breathalyzer. They say, blow into this. And it's funny. Anything fails you, right? It's not like you got to get to because you're not allowed to have any alcohol, right? I think Nick's family will pitch in for commissary versus attorney. They just want justice. I think that's actually a pretty astute comment. I think that they would buy the guy food. I just don't think that they're going to try to do anything to help him get out of the country that he's in. Slingblade said, I saw 2 guys die in county. I can't tell you the number of overdoses I saw. We were on lockdown in Victorville after they cut the warden. And I kid you not, there were 4 in 1 week. And they came up with a new rule that everybody had to have a cellmate. Because when the lockdown happened, we weren't at full capacity. So they're not bringing people in during lockdown. So there were guys that had single cells. And they said, nope, everybody gets a cellmate. Yes, Rue, people do get beat up for not doing courtesy flushes. That happens. They never do that. They don't usually show inmates' faces, especially if there is any kind of a psychiatric hold, right? It's odd that they do that. If a person is on a psychiatric hold, they're probably not showing their face. That's just, especially because you don't want the general public seeing him in a suicide smock and taking away that as an image. It's the same reason that when somebody goes to court, they let him put on a really nice, suit because they don't want the jury to go, well, he's dressed in a jumpsuit. Obviously, he's guilty, right? They want the illusion that he's just a normal guy so that those kind of things aren't judged. ODs in prisons happen constantly. Most of the drugs don't come through the mail, although Suboxone or Subutex comes in little strips of just like the same stuff that they make. What's that stuff? The fiber that you stir up and you drink. It's made out of psyllium husk, same thing that they make fiber supplements out of. They roll it really flat into. You ever had like a breath strip? It's supposed to make your breath better. You used to buy them in the 90s. It looks just like one of those, right? It's orange flavored and it has, Metamucil. Thank you. It's made of the same stuff that Metamucil is made of. But they will absolutely put that stuff in mail. Now, some jails like 911 Par Boulevard is a jail I spent some time at when I was fighting my Fed cases. They just went, no more mail. Now, legally, they can't do that. So they said, if you're going to have mail, it has to come in on a postcard. Right? They don't want to have to open it. People would put Suboxone under the stamps. They get very creative with how they get stuff in. But yeah, there's a ton of overdoses. Sadly, a lot of overdoses. People get drunk all the time. And the cops come in, like on holidays, they will come in and breathalyze everybody. And by everybody, I mean they'll take 6 white guys, 6 black guys. It's supposed to be random. But cops that have been there a long time, they don't want to write paperwork. If guys are drinking and not causing problems, most COs don't really care. They're like Schultz, right? I see nothing. But I remember many times guys coming in like on Super Bowl Sunday or whatever and saying, he'd go, hey, you drunk? I'd go, no, man, I'm not drinking anything. Can you go find like 6 other white guys that aren't drinking? They don't. They really don't want to see, they don't want to write paperwork. They don't want to bring people to the hole. It's just way more work for them. What was the best and worst places you did time? The best place that I did time was FCI Tucson. It was absolutely beautiful, but they didn't want me there because I had just come from Victorville. In fact, when I was going through, the guy said to me, "You just came from Victorville?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "I'll get you out of here. I don't want you on this yard." It's like beautiful. And they did. I'm not sure how people get high on subs. Yeah, you know what, Sling Blade? I couldn't get high on a sub either, right? Because if you had an opiate addiction, that's not going to work. But if you've never done opiates, that will waste you like you would not believe. I used to watch guys nod out on the day room all the time, but it did nothing. It's just not something that I could catch a buzz on. That was the best place I did time. The worst place I did time was Lewisburg, Pennsylvania. No heat, no air conditioning. So in the summer, you got heat rash. In the winter, you're freezing. You have to light fires in the cell to stay warm, and you're locked down 23 hours a day. Why did they want me out of Tucson? Jamie Palmer, on paper, I look like a very bad human being. And you know what? I probably was. I was. I had punched a cop in the face, right? And that's on your jacket forever. I punched a corrections officer in the face, and that stays on your jacket forever. So, and Victorville is one of the worst prisons. They call it Victimville. Victorville is absolutely vicious. So when I got there, the guy was like, why are they taking you from there to here? Like, you should have been someplace a little nastier before you ended up on this yard. So, yeah, you can ask me. They don't like people that you have a prison jacket that lasts forever. So I hadn't even hit the guy on that sentence. I had punched a guy on the last sentence. But when you come through the front door, you're always a guy that punched a cop, and that's never going to go away. And it was stupid. And if I told you why I did it, you'd go, yeah, I can see that. He should have got hit. But you just have to grit your teeth and go, I'm going to take a big bite of the shit sandwich, and I'm just going to get it down. And I wasn't very good at that when I was still on drugs, man. Yeah, no heat is abuse. And I'll tell you something. When I first got there, I said to my cellie, oh, man, I can't wait for summer. It is so cold. He went, don't say that. Don't say that. He said, when summer comes, you're going to wish it was winter. It was really bad. Sunshine Lady, your ex died on Florida of a heart attack, and he was on death row. I'm not being disrespectful, I promise you, but we're talking about prison. You know what the fellas call it if you die on death row and they don't kill you? They call that parole. That's what the guy's on, because you kind of stole that punishment. I'm sorry to hear that he's gone, but Sunshine Lady, I'm kind of happy that he stole that away from him. When there is an inmate educated in defense law, how much will other inmates pay them or other favors for the legal service? There are jailhouse attorneys all over every single prison. Now, some of them are not great at what they do. Some of them are remarkable at what they do. So I worked paralegal stuff. I used to go to the law library. I wrote a lot of this stuff. In the federal system, there is air conditioning in prison. You can't control it. They control the temperature, but it's usually fairly comfortable. The feds do, that's one thing they do pretty well. So if I was doing an appeal, I was in there when the crack laws got overturned. The racist crack laws used to say that if you got caught with an ounce of cocaine or you got caught with an ounce of crack, right? They're both cocaine. They would charge you 10 times more. So if you got charged with an ounce of crack, it was like having 10 ounces of coke. Why? Because lawyers snort coke. And at the time, black people were smoking and selling crack. It was just a racist. So when they overturned that, every guy that was in there on the old crack law just needed somebody to fill out some papers for him. And I was doing them for $30 for each one, which doesn't sound like a lot of money. It's a lot of money. If somebody writes you a full-on appeal, it's about $100. Research can usually just be a flat book if you just need someone to look you up particular precedents or whatever. And you have access to an unbelievable law library. They have, I can never get this name right. It's either LexisNexis or NexusLexis, right? But that's one of the programs. And it's like having every law book in the entire world just on a computer. And you have to go, it's not in your unit. You have to go down to the law library to use those computers. The other one is called Westlaw. And between the two of them, there are no cases you're not going to get. And yeah, all kinds of favors. There's a lot of guys that are getting dope for that. I mean, if you're good at it, you can make a decent amount of money. This is a funny question. Good Lord, no. No, I was not. I was a drug addict, and it was the most important thing in my life. I got my life saved by a black man who I call Q. And he helped me realize that you didn't have to be tough or mean to be a man, and that no matter where you're planted, you probably need to flower. So the last 6 years I was in prison, I really became a very different individual. In fact, everything I did was trying to help other people not end up the way that I had. That's how I spent the last 6 years. And the last sentence that I did altogether, I didn't watch television. I didn't go out to the yard and cause trouble. I wasn't trying to do any of that stuff. I just read nonfiction books. I tried to educate myself. I got a college degree. So I changed halfway through my last sentence, and really changed. The kind of change that I used to lie to people and tell them I had already done. That kind of change. I started journaling. I started doing all kinds of stuff. And I found God, right? And I found God, which was, it's not that I didn't know who God was. It's just I had chosen to get as far away from him as I could for most of my life. And I got religion back in my life. Didn't change who I am. I'll punch you in the face if you're a douche, right? But I spend a lot more time praying. I still work out a lot, but I have a very different life. And it's a blessing in a big way. And then I met a girl that allowed me to really take a look at the things that in my past that had caused me to be the person that I was. If it wasn't for Reese, I probably grew more in the last 6 months than I did in the previous 10 years. And that's been you know what? I thought she left. I wouldn't have been all sweet if I thought she was still in here. I'm kidding, but she really did an amazing amount for me. Do me a favor, smack that subscribe button, people. I'm trying to hit that 100,000. I want the silver play button. I'm 75,000 away, but I think we can do this, man. I just need a little help. Smack that subscribe button and hit the thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. You know what? Here's the thing. This is actually an interesting comment. Nick probably loves all the attention and monitoring. He's under there. He's such a narcissist. He may like the attention, right? There are people that groove to them coming by. I worked as a suicide watcher, right? It's called My Brother's Keeper. I used to go in there, sit down and watch people. And there are people that groove to it. There are people that go on suicide watch because they want to be the center of attention. Most of them freak out. And that's the truth. Most of them can't take that kind of monitoring. It really will drive a lot of people really, really uncomfortable. Do you believe inmates use religion, though? You mean use it as a way to try to get out? Or, yeah, we call them jailhouse Christians or jailhouse conversions. There's a lot of people in there that don't find God, or they find God right until they get to the gate. And there's a lot of reasons for that, right? There are certain religions. One would be like in the federal system. If you go in and you, let's say that you were a rapist, that you were a kid toucher, you were one of those things that is considered the absolute most foul crimes in the world. They'll beat you up for that every single time they get a chance. They'll stab you and they're going to try to kill you. That's kind of how it works. But if you go in and the second you get in there, you go, hey, I'm a Muslim. And I just decided I was a Muslim. When I was in county jail, I started reading the Quran. The fellas in there will say, nothing that you did before you found Allah, you can be judged for. So instantly, they can join a car that's going to protect them, right? So guys, some guys do it for that. There are guys who decide to go pagan as soon as they get there because you're going to get a meal that's like a side of beef once a year. They do all of these sort of holidays. And you're allowed to go out on Sunday to a place that they call the Grove. It's like a little section outside for pagans, for sort of any of the more. I'm trying to remember what the other religion. Satru is another one. The people that believe that Odin and Thor, right? The sort of the Nordic religion. Those people also get to go out to land and do rituals and all kinds of stuff. Some people join for the camaraderie. There are no black dudes who are Odinists, right? So it's kind of a white supremacist kind of thing that a lot of white boys who have swastikas will join that Odinist car. You also have the opportunity, at least in the feds, you can go walking in there, and when they come up and go, hey, what's your deal? Are you tipped up, right? Are you with a gang? Are you with anybody? No, I'm not. Is that something you're interested in? No, not really. Just sort of walk alone. I'm down for the cause. If something happens, you can count on me, blah, blah, blah. You can also walk in there and say, I'm a Christian. Like I found Jesus in the county jail. I'm not hurting people. I'm not doing any of this stuff. And they will say to you, then this is the table you eat at lunch. These are the people you're allowed to hang out with. These are your Christian brothers. but you are not gonna, if you get caught buying a bag of dope, we're gonna kill you, right? If this is your path and this is your religion, do it. But if you're a hypocrite that's trying to duck out of being a convict, or you're trying to be protected, then this is what you're going to do, right? That's your card. That's the Christian Brothers. So there's a lot of people that will do those kind of conversions instantly for the purpose of getting protected. There are also people that know that if you do this, right, then what happens is you have a better chance of parole if you're in a state place if they think that you have found religion. So there are people that bullshit it all the time. Why do they call it a car? You're not driving anywhere. You know what? Probably because somebody thought it was cool a long time ago. Like, why do they, there are just certain jailhouse phrases that will never go away. We don't buy sweets. We buy Zuzus and Wham Whams. Wouldn't a hypocrite be sussed out eventually? Absolutely. The guys that go in there and try to pretend that they're Christians or whatever, more often than now, what's going to happen is they're gonna buy some wine, right? Or they're gonna place a bet on a football game, or they're gonna do something that the fellas are gonna go, "You're not real," and then it's gonna get ugly. And you're absolutely right. She said, "My where was it? My grandmother worked in prisons." There we go. My grandmother worked in prison. She said, "You got beat up if you harmed women or children. You didn't survive." It is really a difficult thing to get through prison if that is what your crime is. The fellas do not dig it. Yeah, Juicy Jules. In an observation cell, none of these things apply. In an observation cell, you are watched around the clock on a camera. They're going to check in on you every 15 minutes, knock on the glass, ask you to interact. The exception to that rule is when you're sleeping, but they're still going to walk by every 15 minutes. On top of that, you have normal counts. And for counts, I don't know how it is in the Twin Towers because it doesn't read this way in their handbook. There's no code for this. In the feds, you have to stand up for count. Now, the exception to that rule is if you're on a place like Victorville, or if you're in Lewisburg, you can't hurt an inmate in Lewisburg. There's nowhere worse to send them. So they would come by and go, "You got to get out of your bunk for count." And the inmates go like this and lay in their bed. Because what are you going to do? Write me up? Like, where do you send me from here? Put it on my tab. I can't make a phone call, right? I can't do any of the things that they call privileges. I'm not going to stand up. And guys tend to develop more of an attitude in those higher custody levels. Zuzus and Wham Whams with honey buns. Yeah, you have a jailhouse dessert, right? What you do is you get a honey bun, you put a little bit of peanut butter on it, and then you dump a whole big thing of Hershey's with almonds on the top. Microwave it, then bend it in half so it looks like a taco. Put it outside and let it cool down. The greatest snack in prison. But they call those Zuzus and Wham Whams because in New York, way back in the day, there are companies that sell. You're not buying Lay's potato chips, right? There are companies that just sell products to prisons. One is Cactus Annie. It's a big company that like Cactus Annie chips, Cactus Annie whatever. Keefy is another brand that does an awful lot of stuff. But in the old days, the company that used to sell sweets, the things that looked like a ho-ho, like those little round cakes that had the sugar on the inside, right? Those were Wham Whams. And the Zuzus look like almost like a Twinkie. Why, thank you. This is I don't talk about lockup often, but this is relevant. So I worked on the suicide watch. I also spent over a month on suicide watch, so I've been on both sides of the glass. And there are guys that groove to it. There are weirdos who just dig suicide watch, and they will get found out. Right, they'll get found out. And in the feds, what that means is they're going to take you to Louisville, Kentucky. And Louisville, Kentucky is a place for people that really are suffering from mental illness. And the horror stories that come out of this place, I had a friend that wanted to be transferred to a specific yard because he would be closer to his girlfriend. So he tried to play the crazy card. I'm not using that as a pejorative. It's what the fellas call it. You play the crazy card. You act crazy. And he was hoping that they would take him there, give him an evaluation, and then send him wherever he wanted to go, because that's how he had been told that's how you manipulate the system. When he got there, they shot him up with Halidol, put him into a one piece, almost like the jumpsuits that you see guys in prison wear, but it's Velcro, and they literally stuck his ass to the wall. And after about 3 days of him being in there with a diaper, the woman came in and said, "You got one shot at this. Are you crazy or are you trying to manipulate this system?" And he went, "I'm trying to manipulate this system." And she said, "Great. What prison are you trying to get to?" And when he told her, she went, "Well, that was not on the list. So we're sending you back to where you came from." And he came back, and like a month later, he was there. I was like, "What happened, dude?" He's like, "Man, that didn't work." I'm like, "Apparently not." Yeah, there are guys in there that put weight on in prison. It's not something you see often, but there are guys that get fat in there. And they don't get fat on the food that they feed you. They get fat because they got people who give them money, and all they do is buy Zuzus and Wham Whams. And if all you're buying is sugar, or sugary stuff, like there's obviously sugar in a honey bun. And there are fools who will scrape all of the stuff off the top to make wine out, but it is a very, very different thing. Yeah, look, here's the deal. If you don't want to live in those situations, man, don't break the law. But yeah, see, that's prison, usually not jail. If you can get a hot pot and a clear radio and TV, and by clear they literally mean clear, because an inmate will so if you take a battery and you take it apart, because there's nothing to do in prison except take crap apart and try to figure out ways to break the rules. So if you take a battery apart, there's a nail inside of it, right? It doesn't have a point on it, but it's a nail. And you can take that nail and turn it into screwdrivers. So you can take the back off your radio and stash dope in it, stash razor blades in it. So they got around that by just saying, if you have any piece of electronic, it's going to be see-through. So if you're in a state facility where you can buy a television set, you can see through it. Your radio, you'll be able to see through it. Everything is clear. Even if you have a hot pot, you're going to be able to see through the plastic. There's never going to be anything that's like, black plastic or white plastic. It's always clear. And it's funny too. Really quick, funny story. After my first prison sentence, I was dating a girl who worked for one of the biggest companies in America as the vice president of human resources. And we went out to dinner, four of us, and she introduces me to this guy. And just the way the guy ate, like we sat down at the table, the guy's arm was like this, like he was guarding his plate. And it was just kind of bizarre. So when we got back in the car to go home, I go, "Hey, where did that dude do time?" And she just jumped my shit like I was the worst person on the planet. "Just because you've been to prison doesn't mean anything, just nastiness." And I was like, damn. I'm like, trust me, the dude did time. I'm not trying to get in a fight with you, but I promise you the guy's done time. So fast forward like 4 months, and he's having a Christmas party, and we got invited over to it. And he takes us up into his office, and he has a Magnavox television set you can see through in his office, right? You gotta be kidding me. On top of that, he also had an alarm clock that was clear. Like 4 things in his office were from prison. And I was in there, he wasn't, and it was me and my girl. And she goes, "Wow, what a cool TV. I've never seen a TV like that." I said, "I have." I said, "That's a prison TV." She's like, "No." I'm like, "Come here, I'll show you where his register number is on this." Right? Showed him right where they tattoo the register number on there so people can't steal it. And I said, and the worst part is this: no one takes their TV home from prison. You give it to somebody when you leave. Like that is standard operating procedure. So not only was he a convict, but he was a piece of shit convict. But it was funny as hell. I got a real kick out of it. And when he came in, I said to him, "Hey, where'd you do your time?" And he goes, "What?" I said, "Come on, bro. Where did you do your time?" I said, "What, you buy that at a pawn shop?" I said, "I don't think so, bud." But you know what? If you try to hide your past, it's just going to keep coming back to haunt you anyway. You may as well do like Eminem did, right? Just own it. Say what it is. The people that like you will like you. The people that will hate you will hate you. There are people that are never going to accept who I am because of the fact that I robbed a few banks and I ran some guns. I was not a good person. I have 4,000 shows on here. I have never said I'm a good person. I'm trying every day to be a better one, but I'm still probably the guy that if you give the finger in traffic, there's a decent chance I'm going to chase you down. There are some things that are just really hard to fix, right? But there's a lot of things that you can do to make yourself a better person. Just try journaling. It's a really good start. By the way, if your name is Mona Jean, you're an evil human being. Sorry, but I'll probably say that once a show for a while because that's just a person that really has been absolutely just an evil human being. All right, people, we're going to stick with this. I'm going to keep talking about this. I am of the belief right now, and this is not because I can back this up. I'm giving you an opinion. Because of all of the people that are talking about how the next step is that Nick's not going to be found competent to stand trial, my guess is he's refusing his medication, right? That would be my guess. Why, thank you, Jamie Palmer. And you know something? It's funny, though. You know, people say the whole prison conversions, is this BS or whatever. For some people, if you all of a sudden find religion and you truthfully believe in God, you get hit with this unbelievable revelation that at some point I'm going to meet my maker and he's going to go, why is it that you wasted the first 45 years of your life? Right? So if you can take all of the things that you did wrong and maybe turn them into a resume that might make other people's lives better. There are people that will listen to me about sobriety because I've been to prison. There are people that will listen to me because of my past, and it gives me an opportunity to try to help people. And I'd like to be able to get there and go, oh no, I wasn't wasting my life. I was studying for the second half of it. Who taught you how to make fire for heat? I felt bad for you when I heard you were cold. So all you need is a battery. You know how batteries have a positive and a negative? The entire battery has that plastic wrapped around it because the whole thing is negative. So they have to make sure that that's all covered up. So you just scrape a piece at the bottom, right? And if you take a piece of tin foil and put it from the bottom to the side, it will burst into a small amount of flame. You roll up a piece of toilet paper and put it right there, and it just goes poof, catches fire. And then you light. In Lewisburg, they gave you extra blankets because they knew you were going to burn them. They can absolutely refuse to take their meds, even if they are deemed insane. And what they will do, is make them miserable. It will get to a point where they just keep taking away things and privileges. Obviously, in the Twin Towers, there aren't any privileges. But if he gets sent to a Toscadero or he gets sent somewhere where he can watch some TV, he can occasionally walk around or do any of those things, buy stuff at store. They just keep taking away things and making you more uncomfortable until you agree to take your meds. But he absolutely can. They cannot force people to take medication. It's been litigated ad nauseum, but they cannot do it. If Nick ever gets to general population, will fellow inmates try to shake him down for money? Yeah. Like send money to a family member or a fellow inmate to avoid a prison assault. Yeah, they will. They will. They won't frame it quite that way. What they will say instead is everybody here wants to hurt you. Send me $400 or $500 a month and I'll make sure nobody does. The trouble is it's like anything else, right? It's like putting out milk for a cat. If you say to that guy, okay, then the next biggest dude there or somebody bigger is going to come up and go, you know what? I think you need to pay me too. And it gets to a point where, they bleed people like that dry until they can't anymore. And then they beat the person up. They take all of his shit and he ends up on the next yard where it happens again. He is probably like the guy's got V on his forehead. He's a victim waiting to happen. And they're pretty good at weeding out people that can't do time. And they send them to places that they're in a lot less danger. There's something to that. We used to joke about that a lot. We'd listen to Coast AM in prison. So people would talk about the doomsday stuff, and preppers talk about that a lot. And the convicts would survive. I promise you that. They're creative as hell. You learn a lot of things as convicts. I learned that you never throw anything out, right? I remember the first time I did time, I bought a sweatsuit, like a sweatshirt and a pair of sweatpants. And this guy followed me back from the store, right, the little commissary area. And he goes, hey, can I have the bag that sweatshirt came in? And I was like, sure. The hell, what do I care? Those bags that those sweatshirts come in were so thick that guy cooked in that for probably a year. You learn not to throw out anything, right? You learn not to throw out anything. And most inmates can make a weapon out of just about anything, which is another skill that probably isn't going to come in handy. But if there's anything that prison teaches you, because everybody takes away the violence part, right? That's what they think. They think inmates fight every day. They're always stabbing each other. Either that or people are getting raped. It's boredom. It's nonstop boredom. And then it jumps off and it's terrifying. And the torture is waiting for the next terrifying thing to happen. That's the scary part, right? It's not what people think. There's more diplomacy in prison than there is on the street. I go to an ATM machine and there's a guy standing a foot behind me. That would not happen in prison. Like there are certain respect things that people they don't get in your personal space. There's all kinds of things that people do to ensure that bad stuff doesn't happen. You know what? If you do 10 years, you probably gotten 20 or 30 fistfights. But there were 600 opportunities where an idiot would have gotten a fistfight. So you learn how to be diplomatic and you learn how to talk to people in a way that isn't going to piss people off, or you learn how to defuse situations. On the street, you just walk away. You can't walk away in prison. You piss a guy off, you're going to see him again, right? You're going to see him again the second you leave that cell. So you have to get really good at getting along with people from all kinds of walks of life. But the respect thing was key. People think that whites and blacks are always at each other's throats in prison. There's more respect in there. No one's calling anybody the N-word or any of that stuff. What they call them brothers. Hey, what's up, brother? Right? And they call us Woods, W-O-O-D, like Peckerwood. That's the nickname for white guys in prison. So it's just one of those, it's a very different kind of a place. It's not some place I would ever want to be, literally. People, when the Diddy case was going on, people said every day that I was doing that stuff. Diddy's not going to go to prison. They're going to use somebody who looks exactly like him and pay him to go in there. What do you think you'd have to pay somebody to go to prison, right? And do time for you? There's just no amount of money, especially, if you're going in as a bank robber, you just got to go in, do your time, get out. It's still going to suck. It's still going to be dangerous. But if you're going in there as one of the most notorious predators on earth, man, that's not an easy way to do time, man. I wouldn't go back for 1 year for $1 million. I promise you I wouldn't. The freedom is wasted on the free. People have absolutely no appreciation whatsoever for freedom. It's one of the, seriously, it's something that didn't occur to me until I got out of prison. But freedom is wasted on the free people. They don't have a perspective. Everyone in life should be locked up for 30 days. Because when you walk outside and there's grass between your toes, it will feel different to you forever. You go outside and you see the stars or you see the moon. Those aren't options for anybody that's locked up, right? It doesn't just take away freedom. It takes away humanity. Not being able to pet an animal, for real. These are things that you just don't think about. I did pretty close to 10 years in a prison, and everything is khaki in the feds. We wear what Air Force people wear when they're not on duty. That gray blouse and the gray pants. The khaki. It's like that brown color. Everything's brown. Everything. You don't see anybody wearing any other color but brown or gray. The first time you get out of prison after a decade and look at all of the colors of people walking by, it's like an acid trip. It will mess you up so badly. You spend 10 years not being in an automobile. The first time you get in an automobile and you see people going by like this, you're like, what the deuce? It's terrifying. It really is. They talk about people being institutionalized. It's a reality. It's a reality. People spend so much time in there that they don't do their own laundry. They don't have to shop. They don't have to cook. And some guys, the people that want to get out, they do independence. They cook in their cell. They don't want to go down to the chow hall. They always do their own laundry because they're trying to hold on to the street. But if you got a 30-year sentence, people just sort of start dropping all of that away. And one of the saddest moments I could remember in prison, I was on a top bunk and my cellmate was already up. He was just getting ready to, it was breakfast. He was just getting ready to get the food slot. And I was having a dream and I went, kind of sat up from a dream. And he goes, hey, you all right? I said, oh, man. I said, I had a weird dream. And he goes, what were you dreaming about? I said, so I was at this girl's house on the street, right? And her brother came over. And when I was done with the story, he said, I haven't had a dream where I wasn't in prison in 8 years. You spend enough time in there, you don't even remember what it's like on the outside. That never happened to me. That would have killed me. It really would have. It would have killed me. But it's a horrific place to be. And for a guy like Nick, people that lived a life of privilege, he's not just in jail. At least in jail, he'd get out for 3 hours a day out of his cell, right? He could go and sit in a day room and talk to other people. There would be connections. And they'd all be bitching about their case and how their girl called the cops on him. It's not a healthy conversation, but it's friggin' conversation, right? And there are people there are guys in prison that are funny as hell, guys in jail that are they get through it by making people laugh. He is isolated like you can't imagine. And not only is he isolated, but if you were locked in a room, right, for 24 hours a day for a month, you'd rub one out. You'd play with yourself. You'd run out of things to do. He can't do anything private. If he's dropping a deuce, someone's looking at him. If he's taking a leak, someone's looking at him. Everything he does, he's being observed. I promise you that will drive you insane. Even if you're not, that will drive you insane. And he's in a really bad place mentally anyway. It's sad that this is the best we can do, honestly, because if he's not fit to stand trial, it's going to be because of where he's at. This is a kid that had a $10,000 a month allowance. Now he's in a cell with observation 24/7, right? Everyone is looking at him around the clock. This is going to be hell on earth for Nick. It really is. And if I had to make a prediction, he's going to get sent from there to a Atascadero so that they can get his medicine right. Even when they get the medicine right at a Atascadero, to bring him back now, they're going to stick him in the same damn cell, in the same damn towers, and they're not going to have doctors that are coddling him, because they will at a Tuscadero. Their job is to get you ready to stand trial, right? So they're going to get him ready to stand trial, and when they sick him back over there, he's going to go right back to where he was. Penny for his thoughts. Oh, I can tell you what his thoughts are. Yeah, that's Nick's fame. Everyone's watching him now. Hey, Jen, I can tell you his thoughts. The inmate has very few thoughts. They're pretty easy. And if you're in a county jail, your thoughts are about your crime and what's going to happen when this gets over. When you leave court, it's all you can think about. It's why guys sit in day rooms and stare at television sets, because anything on TV might make you stop thinking about that. It's the reason guys read books, because it can get you out of prison. You're reading about a guy that's, in Europe, and he's jumping out of airplanes or whatever. For a brief period of time, you can leave prison, right? But Nick can't read. I mean, he's not allowed to read in there. They're not going to be giving him reading material. He sure as hell isn't seeing a television set. He doesn't have a radio. So it's just him and his thoughts. And his thoughts may be unhinged. He may be hallucinating. We don't know the extent of the damage that he did. And by the way, I don't care if he's hearing stuff. I don't care if he's seeing stuff. It's not a pass, right? If he had no history of any bullshit in his entire life, and then he snapped, right? Not guilty by reason of insanity kind of makes sense. But he's been escalating in this direction since he was 15 years old, since he went to the first rehab. And his takeaway wasn't, good God, I could end up like people in here. His takeaway was, man, that heroin sounds good. This is a kid that's had a really serious problem his entire life. He trashed the guest house that his parents gave him for all intent and purposes. He lived in it. He trashed it twice. 911 called to the house in Brentwood 5 times, 6 times, never an arrest. He overdosed on an airplane. They had to get him to a hospital in Boston. And he had so many interviews where he just made himself sound like just a little bit more than a douchebag, right? I can do anything I want, not get in any trouble. I'll tell you a funny story. And then he tells you stories that are not funny. They're just entitled little rich kid shit like, yeah, I wanted drugs and they wouldn't give them to me, so I played crazy. Can you imagine a jury hearing that when you're trying to convince the jury that he's not guilty by reason of insanity? You already played crazy once for the purpose of getting a psych med that you could snort. Why can't he have reading material? Susie, when you are in an observation cell, you don't get any of that. They want that cell with nothing in it. Because, and it's going to sound stupid, but you can't believe all of the ways that people have found to hurt themselves. People have tried to kill themselves by eating one tube after another of toothpaste. There are people that will eat things. They'll eat books. They'll eat batteries. They'll eat radios. For real. They have entire units in the feds for people that just eat things and swallow things they're not supposed to. Most of them have what's called a zipper, where they've had to cut them up and go in there and squeeze to try to find it in the person's intestines so it doesn't kill them. And it looks like a zipper. They have it on their stomach. It's horrible. But they don't round people up for prison at universities and churches. A lot of them are not burdened by deep thought. Yeah, he never grew up, Neutralizer. He didn't. And look, this is kind of a drug thing too, right? For anybody that's ever been addicted to something, you stop maturing, right, emotionally when you start doing drugs. So if you started partying at 14 and now you're just getting sober for the first time, his EQ, right, his emotional quotient, not his IQ, he's going to be his coping skills and all of that. He's going to be 14. And he learned at an early age, if I throw a fit, they're going to fix this. And he's still throwing fits. And the difference now is there's nobody left that wants to fix anything for Nick, right? He's run out of allies. He killed the only 2 that would keep fixing things. And he's got a sister that is the field where her give a shits are grown is barren. She no longer gives a shit, and I can completely understand why. Yeah, it's exactly what it is. His stories are embarrassing. They're horrible. And he thinks they're funny. It's not really it's going to be a shit show if they're able to get that stuff in. And I think the probative value of that far outweighs the punitive value. I mean, is it going to upset people? Yeah, but this is the subject matter is, would he fake crazy? Well, in his own words, he said he already has. I think they'll get that in. And I think it's going to be hard for him to get anything other than life in prison without the possibility of parole. I do not see him getting, but what do I know? Just a convict. All right, people, thank you for spending time with me. I'm going to keep covering this. I've also got, there's a crap load I'm covering. So do me a favor and be here tomorrow because we've got a lot to talk about. Hit subscribe right now. If you hit that bell for notification, and make sure you hit all, right? That means anytime I go live, you're going to be told about it. And I'm going to be going live a lot. Reese does have an extremely high EQ. She's also faster on her feet than anyone I've ever seen. Very, very funny woman. Really, really makes me happy. I'm glad that she's the old ball and chain. Do me a favor, people, hit that thumbs up. It makes a huge difference. Thank you to all the people that have been hyping this. Apparently, the hype button doesn't show up until after the stream. I didn't know. But I had more hypes in the last 2 weeks than I've ever had, which is really kind of cool. And hit subscribe. I promise you, you'll thank me later. All right? People, have a great night. Between now and the next time I see you, you could also go over and check out Relatable Reese. That's my better half. Hit subscribe over there. I stop in there from time to time. I think you'll enjoy it. She's funny as hell. All right, people, put a smile on your face. I'm Tommy. We'll see you on the next one. God bless.